It's a little after 2 in the morning. You're deep in the wild. A sound wakes you, a snapped branch, something heavy dragging through leaves, right past the thin wall of your tent. You freeze. 2 million years of instinct asks one question. Is it coming? It's out there. It knows you're there. And it's doing the one thing you'd never expect from a hungry hunter next to sleeping, defenseless meat. It's leaving. The dark outside your tent isn't ignoring you. That would be luck. This is stranger than luck. The dark is avoiding you, on purpose, because you are not the prey here. You are the single most feared animal on Earth. And the proof isn't that predators attack you. The proof is the opposite. The most dangerous animals alive will run from a sound you make without thinking. Your voice. Start there. It's the strangest finding of all. In 2023, a team led by Liana Zanet and Michael Clinchy ran an experiment in Greater Kruger, a huge, wild stretch of South African savanna. They hid speakers at waterholes, waited for animals to come drink, and played them sounds. Some nights, lions. Snarling, roaring, the voice of the apex predator of the whole region. Other nights, something else. Humans. Just people, talking calmly. Think about who came to those waterholes. Elephants, giraffes, leopards, hyenas, rhinos. The heavyweight roster of Africa. Animals that fear almost nothing. Across 19 species, 95% reacted more strongly to the human voices than to the lions. Read that again. A person chatting scared them more than the thing that actually eats them. They were about twice as likely to run. They fled the water 40% faster when the threat was a human talking. A lion's roar made them cautious. A human voice made them run. So the scariest sound on the whole savanna isn't a predator. It's two people having a quiet conversation. That's you. That low murmur you make without a thought is, to the most powerful animals alive, the sound of death coming. Why would a leopard, an animal built to kill, treat your voice as worse than a lion? Because the animals are right. They've done the math. And the math is brutal. Here come the numbers. In 2015, Chris Darrimont and his team at the University of Victoria published a study in Science. They pulled together over 2,000 estimates of how often predators kill from all over the world, then matched us against every hunter the planet has ever made. The result: humans kill adult land predators, the bears and wolves and big cats, at up to 9 times the rate those animals kill each other. In the ocean, we take adult fish at up to 14 times the rate of marine predators. But the rate isn't the worst part. It's what we hunt. A wild predator picks off the young, the old, the sick, the easy. We do the opposite. We hunt the strong, healthy, breeding adults in their prime, the exact animals a population is counting on to make the next generation, and by taking them, we hit a species where no other hunter ever dares to. Darrimont called us the super predator. The name fits. Nothing else on Earth hunts like we do. The animals alive today are the descendants of the ones who figured that out and kept their distance. And you can watch them do the math in real time. That Kruger study grew out of years of work, including a 2019 study by Justin Sirachi and Christopher Wilmers in California, who played human voices to wild mountain lions, also called pumas, in the Santa Cruz Mountains. The pumas didn't just flinch. They abandoned deer they'd already killed and were mid-meal on. They took far longer to come back. They walked away from free food the second they heard a person. Think about what that costs. A puma burns serious energy bringing down a deer, and walking away from the carcass means all of that effort, every calorie spent in the chase, gone for nothing. A hungry hunter giving up a caught meal is, in survival terms, insane. Unless the thing it's walking from is more dangerous than starving. To a puma, your voice is exactly that dangerous. So where does the fear come from? A leopard at a waterhole has never been hunted by you. It's never seen what your kind can do. So how does it know to be afraid? Some of it is taught, passed from mother to cub, a wariness handed down like any lesson. But some of it runs deeper than one lifetime, written into the whole species across an enormous span of time by the simplest and cruelest filter that ever existed. A filter with only 2 possible outcomes for any animal that ever met us. The bold ones died. The cautious ones lived. Over thousands of generations, caution stops being a choice and quietly becomes the factory setting. You can see it on a map of the planet, drawn in extinctions. When modern humans spread across the world, the giants vanished behind us. The ground sloths, the mammoths, the car-sized wombats of Australia, the saber-toothed cats. The scientist Paul Martin called it the overkill hypothesis. Humans arrive, giants disappear. Here's the tell. The losses hit hardest exactly where the animals were naive, where nothing had ever taught them to fear a small, upright newcomer walking in from somewhere far away. Humans were the main driver, and it landed heaviest where the prey had never learned to be afraid. Now the proof. Africa kept most of its giants, the elephants, the rhinos, the hippos, the lions. Why? Because Africa is where we grew up, and those animals evolved right alongside us over millions of years, learning to fear us a little more with every passing generation, until the wariness was baked in. The Americas and Australia never got the lesson until it was too late. Africa survived because it was afraid of us first, and fear can be lost as easily as it's gained. On the Galapagos Islands, marine iguanas lived for millions of years with almost no predators, and having never once needed the machinery of panic, they let it rust away until they had no working flight response left at all. A researcher named Martin Wikelski studied them. You could walk right up, nothing. Then, about 150 years ago, humans brought cats and dogs, and the naive iguanas were slaughtered. But the survivors, within a generation or two, started learning fear again. Fast. Which tells you something. Fear isn't a permanent stamp in the genes. It's a lesson the wild has been learning about us for a very long time. Okay, so predators fear us as a species, but you, right now, aren't roaring at anything. You're asleep. Quiet, slow, soft. Surely the math changes now. It doesn't. And to see why, throw out the movie version of the predator, the fearless killing machine that attacks anything that moves, because that animal has never once existed anywhere outside a screen. And what actually lives out in the dark are nervous accountants who treat every single hunt as a gamble they cannot afford to lose. Because in the wild, a losing gamble means starving to death. A lion has no doctor. A wolf has no recovery time. One bad injury, a cracked rib, a kick to the jaw, and the animal slowly starves because it can't hunt anymore. So before every attack, every predator runs one cold question. Is it worth it? You fail that test in almost every way. You're unfamiliar. A lion knows exactly how a zebra moves, where it's weak, how it kicks. It has no idea what you'll do. You might wake up screaming. You might be holding something sharp. You might not be alone. Even lying down, your shape is wrong. That long, upright body reading as the same posture a bear or a gorilla uses to look as threatening as it possibly can, right before it decides to fight back. And there's almost always an easier meal nearby. So why gamble its life on the strange, upright thing that smells like nothing it's ever eaten? It wouldn't. And even if it tried, you're not as helpless as you feel, because your sleeping brain never fully clocks out. In 2016, Masako Tamaki and her team at Brown University found something remarkable about your first night somewhere new. When you sleep in an unfamiliar place, like a tent, half your brain, the left hemisphere, stays partly awake, on watch. They tested it with quiet sounds, and the half-awake hemisphere woke people faster than the other side, which turns out to be a stripped-down human version of the trick that dolphins and some birds pull off completely, sleeping with only one half of the brain at a time while the other half keeps them alive. A neural night watchman, standing guard while the rest of you drifts off. And it isn't just you, it's the whole camp. David Sampson and Charles Nunn studied the Hadza, hunter-gatherers in Tanzania, and across 20 tracked nights, out of hundreds of hours of people lying down in the dark together, the entire group was fast asleep at the exact same moment for a grand total of 18 minutes. 18. For more than 99% of every night, someone was awake. Nobody assigned a guard. It just happened. Older people drift off early and wake early. Younger people stay up late, and the ages stack into a watch that almost never sleeps. So a human camp is almost never truly defenseless, because between the half-awake hemisphere standing guard inside your own skull and the staggered ages keeping someone stirring in the group around you, there is always a thin thread of attention stretched across the dark. Always an eye half open. To a predator hunting a clean, silent, low-risk kill, that's the worst target on the menu. But sometimes the rule breaks. Sometimes a predator does come in. And when it does, the science tells a much quieter story than the legend. The most famous case is the lions of Tsavo in Kenya, 1898. The legend says 2 monster lions devoured 135 railway workers. For a century, the number grew in the retelling. Then, in 2009, Justin Yackel and Bruce Patterson studied the actual lions, preserved at the Field Museum, reading the chemistry locked in the animal's bones and hair, which records what a creature really ate. The real number wasn't 135, it was about 35, and one lion had eaten far fewer people than the other. And the reason is smaller than the number. Patterson's later work found the main man-eater had a broken canine and a painful abscess in the root. Lions kill by clamping the throat. A broken, infected tooth makes seizing a struggling zebra agony, so it switched to softer, slower prey. The monster of Tsavo was a lion with a toothache. The same story repeats with the Champawat tiger of India and Nepal, blamed for over 400 deaths in the early 1900s. When the hunter Jim Corbett finally killed her, the post-mortem told the truth. She was a tigress, and an old gunshot wound had shattered the canines on the right side of her jaw, which meant she physically could not bring down the fast, kicking, dangerous prey she was built to hunt. And so she turned to the softest, slowest, most defenseless prey she could find. The attacks weren't the rule-holding, they were the rule-breaking, one broken tooth at a time. Which brings us to the strangest part of all. We are so terrifying that our fear has rewired the wild itself, even in places we never set foot. Go back to that California puma study. When the pumas avoided the areas where they had heard human voices, the whole food web shifted underneath them. Because a puma that abandons half its territory is a puma that stops pressuring the skunks and bobcats living in that half. So those smaller hunters cut their own activity by about 40%, which quietly handed the mice and rats they normally hold in check the freedom to leave their burrows and roam and forage far more boldly than they ever would have dared with a hungry puma still out there somewhere on patrol in the dark. Just the sound of us. No hunting, no killing. And who ate whom across the whole hillside quietly rearranged itself. That is what you are. Not a creature the wild forgot to eat. Not a lucky bag of slow meat the predators keep politely overlooking. You are a creature so dangerous that the entire living world, right down to which mouse dares to leave its burrow at night, quietly rearranged itself around its fear of you. So go back to the tent. 2 in the morning, the branch snaps, your heart pounds, and that ancient, helpless feeling floods in. Let it. That feeling is 2 million years old, and it kept your ancestors alive. But you had the question backwards the whole time. The thing in the dark isn't deciding whether to come in, it decided long ago. It has 2 million years of reasons to stay exactly where it is, on the far side of that thin nylon wall, waiting for you to stop stirring and fall back asleep so that it can finally, quietly, get away from you. You're not the one who's afraid out there. You're the reason the dark is.